So after playing the new expansion, everyone is saying their goodbyes to Khadgar, talking about his heroic sacrifice against Xal'atath, but I feel like no one is mentioning the fact that we datamined this exact model that still hasn't been added to the game. Furthermore, his disintegration could very likely just be him being taken prisoner into the Void Realm, as we've also just learned Xal'atath is taking prisoners. While, of course, not a prisoner, we know Queen Azshara is living within the Void Realm right as we speak. I think they're doing another Dranosh Saurfang Bolvar type situation like they did back in Brad to get us invested. Dalaran, while blown away, might not be fully destroyed, and we might just be seeing some type of a void-twisted Dalaran as a part of a raid or a dungeon in the future, and we might discover what she is actually doing with Khadgar, which could be even more tragic. So what is all the information that we currently have? If you want to get Dragonflight or anything else Warcraft related, Gamigo has some excellent deals that you can check out with my link below. Best of all, you can get software, gift cards, a bunch of games at below market prices. On top of that, you can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so make sure to check out my link below and grab some amazing deals at Gamigo. Do you think losing characters after Shadowlands just kinda doesn't have the same impact as it had before? Like back when we lost Varian, or when Artist had that entire father is it over moment, it kinda had a lot more of a significant feel to it, but seeing that we went to the Shadowlands and we're like one portal away from it, it kinda doesn't really hit you just as hard, although I do feel like with the recent lore changes, Blizzard is trying to reduce the overall impact of the Shadowlands. They kinda left a little bit of a loophole where certain cosmological powers don't exactly go to the Shadowlands. So, for example, if Khadgar was transformed by the Void, he wouldn't go to the Shadowlands, but instead he would probably go to the Void Realm. So that in itself could make it even more tragic, because he wouldn't be chilling in Shadowlands where we would be able to see him, but he might remain as a Void prisoner forever transformed into something horrifying. So that kind of gives it some significance. However, I do think it is way too early to talk about that, and I don't think this is actually the end of not just Khadgar, but Dalaran in general. So if you played the expansion intro, you must have seen what happened. Xal'atath possessed the mage that was missing, set everything up, defeated Khadgar, almost defeated Illyria, before Khadgar sacrificed himself to teleport her out, and then blew everything up. However, I do think there are a few more things that people are not actually noticing. So of course, the main reason Xal'atath is so insanely overpowered is actually the Dark Heart artifact she took from Deathwing back in Dragonflight. I don't think people realize how powerful Khadgar actually is, and that arcane spell he just blasted would obliterate almost everyone, but in terms of Xal'atath, it just kinda made her even stronger. I honestly do think it is a little bit crazy that they're aware that Xal'atath has a powerful artifact that can absorb arcane magic, which is one of the things she actually wanted from Dalaran, but first thing Khadgar does is just blast a monster of an arcane spell directly at her. It just doesn't seem like the smartest thing to do. However, as Chris Metzen recently stated in an interview, Xal'atath is not a final boss type villain, and she will be present throughout the whole World Soul saga, and this really is the first time ever in WoW where it's not the big bad we will ultimately just defeat in the final raid. Like, we really at the moment stand no chance of fighting her in open combat, and if she can absorb our powers, we will just make her even more powerful, so we don't wanna face her off. Furthermore, she doesn't even seem to be interested in actually facing us. The only combat we had seen was kinda out of necessity in Dalaran. Now, we did see a part of this cinematic when Blizzard teased it a few weeks back, but now that we have the whole cinematic, we can see that Xal'atath blasts like 11 different void balls at Khadgar, and it appears to actually paralyze him. And I don't mean in a temporary stunned type spell way, but actual meaning of the word, but we'll get to that in a bit. Now, what we also noticed is that she literally breaks Aetish in half, and I feel like this is a moment not so many people are taking seriously, or that Blizzard has even highlighted whatsoever. It's just kind of like a random moment in the cinematic. This is legit quite close to Frostmourne breaking, for example. This is literally the staff of Medivh, the staff of the Guardians of Tirisfal. Even Aegwynn used it. It's thousands of years old, it's one of the most powerful weapons in all of history, and it literally was just shown for like a second to be broken. Now, after Khadgar teleports Illyria out of the way, we see Xal'atath casting this massive void ball thing, and we see Khadgar sort of disintegrating and being consumed by the void. Ultimately, the ball gets bigger and consumes a half staff of Dalaran and just blows the city into bits. However, I don't think this is actually what happened when you really look at it in face value. First, the most important thing to notice is that we didn't see anything bad happening to Khadgar. There was no scream, there was no flash, like for example what happened to Varian. Like if she was transported him into the Void Realm, this is exactly what would happen. We haven't really seen a cinematic of a portal, but this is essentially a portal to a different plane of existence. I also don't think she destroyed the whole of Dalaran and that she teleported the core of the city into the Void Realm as well. I think the massive explosion that we saw was the giant landmass where Dalaran was placed on. That was actually the biggest part of the city. This is why I think the giant expanding void ball thing was not just an explosion, it was more of a portal. Why I think this actually makes sense is because we know some characters from Azeroth actually exist currently in the Void Realm. The prophecy from Dragonflight stated that Queen Azshara will soon return from the Void Plane of Existence, meaning she has been living there since the end of BFA. We also started this Dalaran questline by going to Telegraph's Rift, which is a void-destroyed planet that is essentially in the Void Realm itself. Xal'atath very likely has her own base of operations somewhere within the Void Realm that we can't reach, potentially where Azshara is as well, and that is also likely where she took the remnants of Dalaran and Khadgar as well. I feel like Blizzard can turn this into a really emotional moment for us when we go to a raid into the Void Realm and we see Dalaran, the city we all grew up in, being completely twisted into this void monstrosity by Xal'atath. However, I feel like Khadgar is going to be in a Tyrion type scenario where we might discover her siphoning his power or transforming him in some way, and it's really going to be gnarly. Some visions from Illyria and cinematics from Khadgar have hinted that Xal'atath is essentially interested in taking prisoners, and I think she acknowledges that Khadgar can be useful bait in the future, especially for Illyria. Seeing that Khadgar saved her in his last moment, she might go out of her way and do something stupid to find him if she learns he is alive, and you know, Xal'atath is going to drop that hint. However, these are of course my thoughts. Let me just give you this bit of evidence, and that is that about a month or so back, we had literally discovered a brand new wheelchair model named Archmage Khadgar. Now, this was not actually found anywhere in the game, it was present in the beta as an NPC, and while it was discovered, we have not actually tied it to everything. This almost certainly means it's supposed to be used later down the line, very likely in something like 11.1 or 11.2. Now, of course, we can't know whether this is a vision or an alternate scenario, but seeing that this is a wheelchair, it is very likely that we do actually end up saving Khadgar. Ultimately, it does seem like the spell Xal'atath casted paralyzed him, hence he didn't even move in the cinematic, but it's also possible that she might have also done something to him while he's being imprisoned. Honestly, I think Xal'atath is going to be using Khadgar as bait, especially for Illyria, and that we will discover him later down the line as this expansion unfolds. It's going to be like a Dranosh Saurfang or a Bolvar 4 Dragon moment from Battle of the Lich King, but possibly without a tragic ending. You might remember, these moments got a few of us quite invested into the entire storyline, and Bolvar and Dranosh ended up being a lot more interesting, having been prisoners and transformed, rather than just, you know, being defeated outright at the Bradgate cinematic. I just hope they don't do the entire Troll, Anduin, Jaina prison scenario that they did in the Shadowlands, where we were searching for Troll's axe, and it ended up being just like a random side mission instead of like saving a majorly important character. Furthermore, as I stated, we might find that Dalaran was turned into some type of a void machine monstrosity. We might end up actually beating Xal'atath back. I don't think Xal'atath is actually undefeatable. I think we will end up fighting her multiple times, but we're not really going to win. It's going to be like a one battle over a one war type thing. I gotta say, I'm actually glad they're sacrificing some characters to actually give us some stakes into the story, that we really are under threat, that Azeroth really is under threat. While Khadgar might not be defeated, I do think they're ultimately trying to use him for a future story where we will get a closer look at Xal'atath and her plans, and this cinematic was just the opening scene. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on the actual return of Illidan and Sargeras in The Last Titan that we learned from the interview by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Ancient Training by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!